Hi, welcome back to Module 4. In this video, we'll look at planning for the annual administrative conference that we'll have with our administrators next fall. The annual administrative conference is a formal discussion between school counselors and administrators. When school counselors and administrators come together and agree on program priorities, implementation strategies, and how the counseling program is organized, your school counseling program is likely to run more smoothly and result in positive outcomes for students. The conference is organized to help increase administrators' understanding of your school counseling program and the school counseling program's priorities, how the school counseling goals align with your school's goals, how as a school counselor you currently use your time and how you would like to use your time in the future, student to counselor ratios and caseload, the direct and indirect student services you deliver, school counseling advisory council members and planned meeting dates, plans for your professional development for the year, and your role on committees or other professional work. Through the conference, you can advocate for your program by explaining to your administrator the benefits of a comprehensive school counseling program and the rationale for appropriate tasks and activities for school counselors. In this module, you'll create an administrative agreement document that will serve two purposes. It will help outline the conversation you will have with your administrator when you meet, and it serves as your official agreement between your administrator and each school counselor in your building. Both you and your administrator will sign the agreement. The annual administrative conference needs to take place within the first 2 months of school. The administrative agreement document you're creating here will be used for your meeting with your administrator in the coming fall. If you have more than one counselor in your building, you'll need to talk as a team as you begin to work on your administrative agreements to discuss what will be included on everyone's agreements. Be sure to take notes as you have these discussions. To make things a little easier, some of the information will already be added to your agreement document here in our system, such as the priority data points and annual outcome goals you've already identified for your program for next year, your potential advisory council members and meeting dates, and a summary of your use of time from your time logs that you completed in the last module. If you're the only school counselor in your building, you of course will create just one administrative agreement for yourself. We'll now walk through the tasks that you'll complete to create a draft of your administrative agreement document, which you'll use to guide your administrative conference in the coming fall. To start, there is information that will be automatically added to your administrative agreement for your administrative conference. For example, as I just mentioned, the priority data you identified back in Module 2 will automatically be entered into your administrative agreement document, and so will the annual student outcome goals that you develop for your program for next school year that were based on that priority data. This will be the first information on the agreement that you'll share with your administrator when you meet next fall. Your advisory council information that you just completed will also automatically be added to the agreement. You won't need to do anything for any of these items. They'll automatically appear on your final report that will serve as your administrative agreement document. For the information that you'll enter now here in Module 4, there are two types. There's information that you'll enter for the entire program, or program information, as you see here. If you have more than one counselor in your building, you'll just need to have one counselor enter this information in the system for everyone. It will be saved here for all of your counselors. Then there's information that's specific to each individual counselor, or individual information, as you see here. If you have more than one counselor in the building, each counselor will need to enter their own information in this section. You'll want to make sure each counselor is a part of your school's account in our Ramp Ready system. When each counselor logs in and comes to Module 4, they will then be able to enter their own information here in steps 10 through 13. We'll start with the information that's entered for all counselors in your building. You'll fill in the counselor to student ratio for your building by entering the total number of counselors in your building. If you have one full-time counselor, for example, and one half-time counselor, you may enter 1.5 or 1.5, for example. Or if you have two counselors who each spend 1/3 of their time in your building, for example, you may enter 0.66. Then you'll select the caseload assignment that best describes your school. Next, you'll enter the annual budget for your school counseling program's resources, materials, and supplies. This doesn't include salaries. You'll also enter any resources, materials, or supplies that your program might need. Especially consider if anything new is needed to help you with the goals that you set for next school year, such as purchasing a new curriculum or supplies. If your school does not provide a budget for the counseling program, which is often the case, you would enter 0 for annual budget. Again, if there's more than one counselor in the building, you should discuss what you would include here first. Next, you'll enter the hours you work at school and when the school counseling office is open. If your building does not have a career center, you can indicate not applicable. You'll next list the role and responsibilities of any other staff associated with a school counseling program, such as an administrative assistant, a registrar, attendance clerk, a counseling intern, for example. Add names only for those positions that are filled in your school counseling program. Leave blank any positions that are unfilled. Now we're ready to enter information specific to each school counselor in your building. The first task for each counselor to complete on this part of the administrative agreement is to set goals for their use of time for next school year. Counselors will first review the results of the time samplings that they've already completed in Module 3. They'll see the percentage totals of their time broken down by the time use categories. Next, determine your proposed time use for next school year. It could be the same as your time use from last year if you believe it's in line with ASCA's recommended ratio of 80% of counselor time being spent in direct and indirect student services. But this is where you might suggest to your administrator how you would like to adjust your use of time, especially if you're fairly far away from that 80% recommendation. Start small with your adjustments. You might look at your percentage of time spent on non-counseling duties and see if you can reduce it slightly to shift more time to either direct or indirect student services. When meeting with your administrator next fall, you might point to the annual student outcome goals that you've set for the year and talk about the strategies you've planned in order to meet those goals that will require more of your time in the areas of direct and indirect student services, such as conducting a small group or doing more classroom lessons. You can emphasize how addressing your school counseling program's annual student outcome goals will ultimately help student outcomes. Next, list any planned or potential professional development that you anticipate for next school year. This could include conferences and workshops or other activities outside of school. It could also include any in-house training through in-services, etc. Be sure to include dates when possible. If you're not sure of dates, you can just enter a rough estimate. Be sure to consider your annual student outcome goals and ask a school counselor professional standards and competencies, which is linked here in the instructions, when thinking about potential professional development needs that you might have or professional development that you want to do. You'll next list the various committees, teams, groups you serve on or work with. If you're on an outside committee or board as part of your job with a school, perhaps a local community advisory board, for example, you'll also include this here. Finally, each counselor will be able to print out an administrative conference report. This will serve as each counselor's administrative agreement document to use when meeting with your administrator next fall, and will be signed by both the counselor and the administrator. Remember that this is just the start. There may be items on your agreement that you end up changing or adjusting after you meet with your administrator. And remember that each counselor in your building needs to have their own administrative agreement form. Having a yearly face-to-face meeting with your administrator is a great way to gain buy-in for the school counseling program. It helps educate your administrator about what you do and how the school counseling program helps your school meet its goals for students. If you're completing our summit level of Ramp Ready, you'll get more information next fall about scheduling your administrative conference at the start of the school year and how to go over the administrative agreement with your administrator when you meet. For now, your tasks to complete are: complete the steps for entering information into your administrative conference agreement for both your program and for each individual school counselor in your building. Make sure each counselor in the building completes steps 10 through 13. Thanks for watching. This is the end of Module 4. As always, we're available for individual support through email, phone, text, or by Zoom. If you need support, just reach out by calling, or texting, or emailing me at kelly@inspiresuccess.org.